Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Crisis Point podcast. My name's Ryan. Today I'm here with my host, Shane,
Hello.
and our guest host, Ben.
Hello.
And today we also have a special guest, Lucas.
Hey guys.
Awesome. So, Lucas, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's awesome to have a top Marvel Crisis Protocol player here for us to interview. So we're gonna get into kind of like your TTS Season 8 run later on in this episode, but right now I think is a time to get into a segment here, Shane, that you've come up with, that you've titled Splash Central.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but all the good podcasts, they all have like a reoccurring segment. And so I was like, what can we do? Because I feel like all the good ideas have been taken. Like, let's be honest, like there's not many like ideas out there. But you know what we can do that's always really fun is we can spin a wheel.
Yeah,
And because what's more fun than spinning a wheel, right?
I love to spin wheels, and let me tell you, I have copy pasted all. Do you want to explain how this works?
Sure. So basically, what's going to happen, everybody, is Ryan is going to spin the wheel, and
Yeah.
the wheel has every character in the game except Dormammu because that wouldn't make sense. And whatever it lands on, we're going to shoot from the hip one at a time, and we're going to come up with the first thing we can think of, or the most optimal thing we can think of off the top of our heads, of a way that we could splash this character in another affiliation. So basically anything that they aren't already a part of. And the funny thing is, we're going to hit characters that are just never splashed, and we're gonna have to get creative, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be random every time. So I mean, we don't know what it's gonna be. Ryan's gonna spin the wheel and tell us what it ends up on. And are we ready, everybody?
Do we just say Avengers just to make the segment short? Just Avengers. Steve Avengers, just to be like, boom, done.
Yeah, no. Well, Steve Avengers the easy way out, and you're allowed to say Steve Avengers, but I will shame you for it.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Just making ground rules. Just ground rules.
And when we'll go and like one at a time, and you can't say something that's already been said. All right,
Ooh,
we can't
all right.
all say Steve Avengers, right?
Ah, damn. All right.
And for all you guys out there who are listening to this episode on YouTube, let us know what you would splash this guy in, or this guy or gal in, or alien, tree, creature, whatever have you, in the comments below as to what affiliation you would want to splash him in, okay? So I'm going to now spin the wheel.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Let me
I
tell
mean, I
you,
wish we could do a drum roll.
I copy pasted like the roster that you sent me, Shane, of just all the characters into this freaking wheel, and it looks ridiculous. Okay,
Oh,
so
it does.
we have the first character for Splash Mountain, or whatever we're calling the segment, is Ursa Major.
Oh,
Oh man. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
all right.
Topical.
Well,
Topical.
Ben, I mean, I think Ben has to start. Ben loves Winter Guard.
It's,
So
he's
you've
my
played
boy.
Ursa Major more than any of us combined, surely.
I have.
I've played him 0 times. Lucas, have you played him even once?
No.
Ryan, I know you haven't played him. So
He's the bear, right?
he's the bear.
He is the bear. Yeah, my boy Ursa Major. I absolutely love Ursa Major. And are you ready for this? I'm gonna say Ursa Major. Ready? In A Force.
Oh,
I
Okay.
want.
Oh,
I thought about going. Steve. Because who doesn't love a turn 1 charge with a bear? Turn 1 charge with bears
Mm.
is amazing, but Ursa Major wants his bear armed brawler, his spender, his auto stagger, auto throw size 4, 7 dice. That if you're me, you'll get 2 hits, but who cares? You're throwing Malekith, you're staggering him. It's going to be amazing.
cool.
You
Yeah.
want lots of power. You want lots of power. And Ursa Major also loves getting slapped. So anytime you can feed him more power, or he can help feed the rest of the team, I think Ursa Major surprise fit in A Force. I love it. Let's do it all the time. bear and a force.
Wow, that was beautiful.
I'm just telling you, man.
Well, Lucas, do you want to go next, or do you want me to go next?
I'll go.
right.
Totally. As soon as I
You're
heard
gonna
A
steal
Force,
what I'm thinking.
as
So
soon as he
let's.
said Air Force, I was like, oh no, because that's exactly what I would have said.
Oh,
But I think that I look at his card and he looks like Convocation would be another great option. He's got the
ooh.
He's got the 4 Mystic Defense, so he's a little more tanky there, and his aggressive range just gets a little better when he gets that bump before or after. I'm not sure the timing on the bump from the Bar with no Doors card, but he just gets in your face a little quicker with that. So I think looks like a good spot in Convocation.
Wow, that is way better than what I was thinking. So I mean, I was torn between two, but you got to pick one. I can't cheat here, and I'm gonna say that he would be a nice. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that 4 is such a competitive spot, I think Kingpin Criminal Syndicate, like a big chonky bear sitting on points. He's got the aggressive to kind of make up for his lack of speed, and honestly, it really just comes down to because my other option that I was gonna say was Shield and getting a double aggressive every time he gets hit, which could be kind of funny. He's like permanently in your face, but I don't know. I kind of like the idea of an Ursa Major sitting on a point with with counting as 2 and just being a big beefy boy. But I love the Convocation shot because of that Mystic defense.
Yeah, I love it. And sidebar, right? Who would not believe a wizard bear? I mean, that checks out, man. I love it.
Got to give him like a wizard cap or something. And
Oh yeah. Just get that little cap on his head. Sprinkle some dust behind him. Yeah, perfect.
Wow. So that's the first Splash Central, Splash Mountain, whatever you want to call it. We'll come up with a name. Guys, put in the comments what we should call this segment.
I like
And,
Splash Mountain.
Splash Mountain is really good.
I really like Splash Mountain too.
Yeah, we're probably gonna do Splash Mountain. If you guys think you have something better than that, put it in the YouTube comments. I'd be delighted to hear all of it. So
The Splash Zone. Oh yeah, Splash Zone.
Oh, Splash Zone. Yeah, that's a good one.
Splash Zone.
Splash Zone. I think I still prefer Splash Mountain.
I think it's just an awesome ride. It's just a ride you can't get off.
Yeah. Anyway, Ryan, sorry, we're hijacking you.
Yeah, let's go with Steve Avengers, because who doesn't like a turn 1 charge, right? No, I'm kind of kidding.
You had to be that guy. Right?
Yeah,
Somebody has to do it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. For some reason I was thinking like Shadowland Daredevil, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't really see much synergy going on there. I don't know. 3 out of 4 ain't bad, right?
I mean, mine was barely it's just big bear, big strong beefy bear, 7 health, or Kingpin Syndicate.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean that was fun.
Yeah.
When in doubt, Steve Avengers.
Yes. Yeah.
It's gonna be every week. There's gonna be a Steve Avengers.
Yeah, I feel like that's a given. All right, so I guess we can move on to our next segment here. And Shane, this is gonna be all about you, I guess. You made top 16 with Spider Foes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The king of the foes, the king of the Spider Foes. King Spider. That doesn't work.
King Goblin.
King Goblin. Goblin King. Goblin King.
Hey. There it is.
I think I hate that.
No, I love it. I love it.
There it is.
Yeah, the Goblin King. All right. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I played my top 32 game. I kind of didn't. I didn't expect to make top 32, and then I made top 32, and I didn't expect to win. Then, so now I'm in top 16. I played against Simon Hall, who is from, I think he placed second in the Oceania bracket this season. And he's a Brotherhood player. And this game was streamed over at, I believe it's youtube.com/simplemathgaming.
Mm-hmm.
It was an Australian channel. And and they've been streaming some games for the cut in season 8. So go give them a look. I know they've streamed at least 1 or 2 other games since this one, but I think mine was the first one they streamed. Yeah, so I played against Brotherhood, and I'll go over the game really quickly. I'm not going to do like a deep bat rep, but because you can go watch it if you're super curious. It was, I think we played on hammers, and what was the other one we played? I'm already like completely forgetting.
Demons.
Yeah, it was demons. Yeah, thank you for remembering my game for me, Lucas. I can't remember it clearly. It was hammers and demons, and I had prio, and I actually usually love getting prio with hammers with my foes because I can trap one side with sinister traps and then grab the other side with first activation, and that's usually a pain in the butt for some teams. Would not have been a pain in the butt for Brotherhood. Like Juggernaut can very easily like run and grab that, and I think on the other side he had Mystique or something. He had a long mover, I believe. That long movers also give sinister traps problems. So I ended up just I see he has Mystique on the other side. I think he took Magneto, Juggernaut, Mystique, Hood, and Toad, and I took Green Goblin, Cassandra Nova, Mysterio, Lizard, and maybe my Toad as well. How many points was that?
The
Venom.
You
Was
forget.
Venom.
Yeah,
Oh, how
you
could I
forgot
forget
your
Venom?
you
Dude,
forgot your MVP.
Venom
You-
was your whole team that game.
yeah, that was insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I blacked out, guys. I don't remember anything about this game.
Yeah, should we take over at this point? Tell your game. Yeah.
Yeah, I took Venom. Venom was amazing. So what happens? I just want to highlight what happened early on and kind of how like because I think it paints a picture of how the game actually went down. I know he has Mystique on the other side, and I know he has Deception,
Mm-hmm.
and I've played against Deception like so many times, because I kept playing against Shadowland Daredevil players who were running it in the 6 rounds before cut, and I mean I've gotten pretty good at playing against it. And I threw up Blizzard to grab one hammer, and where I had him positioned, Mystique would have had to double move to get the deception off, and then Magneto would have had to move, and then he wouldn't get his rerolls, so he wouldn't get him within 2. He'd only get 1 attack on the Lizard. Maybe he'd throw something at him, but it would be like pretty low odds, and Hood would have had to move to get 1 attack off, and then I think there was like Toad, and that was it. So I was pretty decently confident that Lizard was going to weather the storm. All he had to do was live that turn, and then next turn I have Prio. He's going to throw Magneto and just book it and heal. And Magneto walks up and he spikes 5 damage on the Lizard, and Lizard basically just poops his pants, and he gets dazed turn 1. He has to invest like almost no resources whatsoever into killing Lizard, which is like the whole point. So I've just basically delivered a hammer to him. And on the other side, I was so confident in Lizard not dying that the only other character I had on the opposite side to grab the other hammer was Cassandra Nova, who was opposite Juggernaut. And that's a really terrifying prospect. But I'm like, if I don't grab this hammer, Juggernaut's going to grab it, and I'm going to be at a point deficit all game. And I'm pretty sure Nova can survive 1 hit. She should survive 1 hit from Juggernaut. She's got 7 health on her healthy side. She is a 5 threat in some ways. So I bite the bullet, and it's like the situation I'm in is like I have to do really gross, like ugly turns with Nova the first 2 rounds to make up for this situation with Lizard. So Nova walks over, grabs the hammer. Juggernaut rolls up, punches her in the face, and then throws her behind him. And she lives. She takes like 4 damage, which is like pretty average. And then he slides back towards me. And because I just did damage, I just took damage, I'm able to do my tricks and traps. I think it's like psychic distraction for her. And I do a damage to Jug because he has no power to shrug. and then I like move down, and then I have prio turn 2, and the first thing I have to do, and this is what I mean when I say it feels really gross and like it felt terrible doing it. I just had to use Nova first activation to just double move away from Juggernaut towards the middle. So like Nova's effectively not really in the game the first 2 rounds. And then Venom kind of just started walking up. He like dazes Mystique. He throws Magneto away. Juggernaut runs over, hits Venom. Venom snacks and does like 6 damage or some insane thing to Juggernaut. And basically the rest of the game is Venom kind of just slowly killing Simon's team. But I think the big takeaway from this for me was sometimes when you're losing and you're in like a really disadvantageous situation, you have to do like moves sometimes. You have to take turns that just feel awful, but are ultimately kind of necessary to get back into the game. And I think, I don't know. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like that's the hardest part of falling behind early in Crisis Protocol and in other games too, like miniatures games, is having to like take those ugly turns. Even if it's good for you, it feels so bad. But I think the highlight of the game was Magneto hitting Venom, and then Venom doing so many snacks back and one-shotting Magneto, which
No,
is just
I've
absolutely insane.
I've felt that pain too many times.
I've never seen that happen before. But yeah, no, it was an insane game. It was really close, like down to the wire. Shout out to Simon; he was a great opponent. And now I got to play Mad Alex Web Warriors. So Web Warriors for Spider Foes. We haven't played yet at the time of this recording. And if I win, then I have to play Lukas here. So there's really no easy way out of this one for me. It's been a really fun run, and I hope I can continue to give the pod updates on this run. Other than I lost and I'm out. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all on that game. Pretty much.
It
I mean,
it was. I think for me, one of the craziest things about that game was Venom on turn 3, if I'm remembering correctly, takes 3 characters out, dazes 3 characters,
Yeah.
removes one, and is like 1 or 2 damage away from removing Toad. And it's like, oh, all right. I mean, Venom just kills the entire board. Cool.
I've never had a game with Venom like that before, ever. I've played a lot of Venom too, and he's never done that for me before.
It was amazing to watch. It's just like, what is Ed? Listening to the commenters or the commentators who were all just laughing hilarious. It was just like, oh, and Venom's about to kill somebody else. Cool. Like it was bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to you, Ben, about my Venom. Like Venom, and everybody who plays foes seems to say this too. Like Venom just feels like sometimes Venom just doesn't come through. In that game, he came through. He came through enough so that he doesn't need to come through for a long time for me, and I'll still keep him on my roster.
So Lucas, hot take: if you play Shane, just don't hit Venom and you'll be fine. You'll just don't hit Venom. Not like you got a big scary kitty cat over there who could explode him, but that's fine. It's just don't hit Venom and you'll do just fine.
There might be a moment in the game where he forces me to hit Venom. I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Just kill him, and then he can't hit you back. It's that easy.
That's true.
Just be Venom.
Yeah, and the funny part about that game with Simon is it was against Brotherhood, and I was always throwing Magneto away, and Magneto's turns were just ending up like partially because of like getting thrown away, and partially because he got one shot on his own turn at one point. I never even had to use Brace.
Mm-hmm.
I never used Brace that game, so it was like I don't even feel like I had to play against the Brotherhood thing, where things are getting thrown at you every 5 seconds. And yeah, I don't know. It was pretty weird.
The last thing I would say is you just have an amazing anti-Brotherhood coach. It's just
I have played against a lot of Brotherhood thanks to you, Ben. I mean, it's funny because I've probably beaten your Brotherhood like once out of like 10 or 15 times we've played the matchup. And Simon was no slouch. He was a great player.
Mhm.
He did really well. I think his only loss before this was Morgan Reed.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
basically, I'm just like Morgan Reed in
Yeah,
that sense, right?
the math checks out. Yeah, the math checks out.
I mean, do the math, right? Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I think
All
I've got
right.
nothing else to say about this game. I've got nothing else to say.
All right. Let's go ahead and move into some news now. As plenty of our listeners probably know, Human Torch is going to be coming to Marvel Crisis Protocol soon. So potentially, let's take a look at his data card and give some. The original, the OG Human Torch.
Yeah.
So
It's not that Fantastic Four weirdo.
No.
No. Yeah, so who wants to go first with their potentially hot takes about the human?
Oh.
Someone take this.
Well, he's Shield affiliated, and he's a 3 threat. I mean, I guess I don't want to just like read a stat line, but I'll do it a little.
Yeah.
He's a 3 threat, defensive stat line of 3-4-2. So weak against the Mystic, good against the Energy, as you'd expect. Average against physical. He's got 5 health on his healthy side, 5 health on his injured side, so he's a bit flimsy overall. He's got a beam 3 gainer called Burn Baby Burn. But it gives off a wild incinerate trigger, which I think is really good. His Nova Burst, which is beam 2. There's not a lot of beam 2s in the game.
Yeah.
Can you guys think of another beam 2?
There's in fact 0.
Is this the first one? Yeah.
This is the first beam 2. Yeah.
This attack is
What-
pretty cool. It's basically it's only 4. It's 1 powered like base, and it's 4 dice on a beam 2, but you can pay up to 7 additional power and effectively get 1 die for each power that you spend. So I mean, at its cap, it's an 8 power, 11 dice beam 2 attack.
Hey, that sounds pretty good.
Not sure if you want to spend that much power on that, but I mean, like having it be like 3 power even, and or I guess it would, if it's 3 power, it's a 6 dice attack. I don't know. There's going to be ways to power dump with this character, but it's got superpowers that are interesting to say the least. Ben, I know you're super duper excited about one in particular.
Hold me back, coach.
Tell us which one it is and what your feelings are on it.
Yeah, so the superpower I want to talk about is Too Hot to Handle. Is a active superpower that is 3 power, and it says choose an enemy character within 2 of this character, and the chosen character drops 1 asset token it is holding. We have now another drop an extract character. Now, I have been hemming and hawing over these types of abilities really since they first come out. I think it as much as I'm going to complain about it here in a second, I think this is the best version of it to date. The other characters that come into mind, Enchantress, Black Cat, and Voodoo.
Yeah. I think this is definitely worse than those. Well, now that Enchantress is in action, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
But this is, go ahead.
Yeah. Enchantress is, before it was a problem because it wasn't an action. They fixed it. Black Cat is kind of challenging. I think the worst offender of all of these characters is Voodoo. But that's probably for another podcast of my loathing of Voodoo, of how much I hate that character. But Too Hot to Handle is really not that bad. The range 2 3 cost drop and making it that it's specific to assets. So like on Spider, infected, you can't make people drop that. There's a couple extracts that you can't make drop, so it won't. Maybe you don't take Human Torch there. It just potentially for me snowballs. There's a world where most likely Human Torch is probably affiliated not only with Shield but also probably with Avengers. And as we said earlier with Steve, There's a potential where you can take Steve, Black Cat, Voodoo, and be an affiliation and just do some really awful things with Legacy Virus. I don't know if Lucas, you've come against the Steve Legacy Virus shenanigans on your climb to the mountaintop, but it's rough. It's rough, and yeah. So I'm not super happy with it. I think it's the best that we've seen so far in terms of drop it abilities, but I'd like to see if they made Black Cat and Voodoo something very similar, to being extremely specific. Um, I'd be a happy camper. But
Lucas, what do you think of Human Torch?
I think he'd be a fun character to play. I don't know if he makes my 10 anywhere. I'm not sure. I haven't done enough thinking on him, but I do like the reactive ability. It reminds me of Bullseye, like
Mhm.
where except it's on a push or a throw. Now, the push or throw is typically optional on a lot of characters that would attack him, but it's always nice to have your opponent need to think about it. Do they push him off and take the damage? And maybe they can't because they're at 1 health left, and similar with like Bullseye or Baron Zemo with those reactionary hitbacks. So I think I like when characters are low health and attacking my guys, and have to think about the if it's worth it to even do that. So I think he would be a fun character to play.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, as somebody that's been like kind of interested in Shield, I was hoping he'd be like this. He definitely strikes me as kind of a like he's not like an offensive like juggernaut, and he doesn't have any like outside of 2 outs a handle. There's not like a ton of control here. He throws out like incinerate really easily.
Mhm.
Um, and he's got some, he's got hit and run, so his action economy isn't too bad. Um, it is nice that Shield can get a little bit more energy in there, and I think he could potentially have a place in Shield, especially with his tactic card. That I'm gonna be honest, I don't have it pulled up, and I don't have it on Cerebro here.
Let
But
me
hit
let me put it right there for you. Boom.
Oh, wonderful! You're so prepared. You're so prepared. So it's called a New Age. He spends 3 power. It's an active card. He spends 3 power to play the card. And each enemy character within 3 of them gains Incinerate. And this round, when allied shield characters are attacking a character with the Incinerate special condition, if the attack type is energy, you add 2 dice to the attack roll. So,
Oh man, I
off
love
the
that.
top of my head, Hawkeye, Iron Man, I mean, Widow has some energy. Trying to think who else has energy and affiliation. I'm
Uh,
totally blanking. There's not a lot.
The
Anybody
the
with
uh,
the
the
initiative?
original Human
Oh
Torch.
yeah, and the original Human Torch, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean this, and I mean potentially with the initiative,
Yeah.
that card you could maybe create some. I shudder to say. I mean, people don't love that card, but there's definitely something out there that's probably pretty annoying with a New Age and Human Torch. Um, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's like not everybody's taking Hawkeye in their Shield rosters too, and I think that he'd be one of the big beneficiaries of this card. So I think if you're running a New Age and stuff, like you kind of have to like think about it in the list construction or the roster construction and have a plan for it because it's obviously something that's going to be better on like a narrow crisis, like a Gamma or a
Mhm.
Demons Downtown. Well, like obviously Demons Downtown would be pretty excellent with that card. But any other thoughts on Human Torch?
I think he's like he reminds me of a 3 threat Bullseye is just the vibe I get from him. He just has everything is a little bit better than what Bullseye offers. A lot of things are very similar. Too hot to handle. I don't know. It's like a once a game thing maybe. So yeah, I think he just looks like a 3 threat Bullseye to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's super fair.
I mean, if you're right, Ben, and he ends up being Avengers affiliated, I'm sure there's going to be some cheesy builds that involve him and Voodoo and Black Cat and Toad.
Yeah.
Um,
That'd just be oppressive.
yeah, I mean, we kind of already see it, but
Yeah.
another source of it could be scary.
Well,
Um,
and what's interesting, I actually really love. So just it's actually kind of funny. I thought about it a little bit earlier today, where you can do a new age, and with the initiative and bring in Vision. And so now Vision is Shield affiliated, and he's got some throws, but he also has a range 4 energy beam. Um,
Yeah,
that's now seven. That's now 7 dice against someone who's incinerated.
man.
Uh, and
Vision should be shield I've ranted about this to you before, Ben. He's literally on the sit rep card.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
come on, just make him affiliated. He'd be so good in shield.
yeah, you would.
He'd be great.
And fun teachable moment. Um, the original comics, I'm pretty sure this has been changed in some of the newer stuff, but the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond's chassis, he is an android, so he's not a person, he's an
Mhm.
android, and they use his android body to create Vision. And so there's just really a lot of funny things to me when I put Vision and the original Human Torch on the board together.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sure there's an awkward conversation between the two of them of going, "Hey, wait, that's like my body. What are you doing?" So yeah, that's just a fun fact too. Besides some neat synergy between the two.
Yeah.
All right. So, Lucas, you are doing the thing. You are out here grinding in the TTS season 8. So we have got a few questions here, just asking you pretty much about your run. I guess first and foremost, congratulations on making it this far. It is quite the accomplishment to make it this deep into the MCP TTS League. So I don't know, Shane. Is there any of the questions here that you have that you want to start out with?
I guess I have one question that I didn't even write in here. So like you started in this season running like a mixed roster of Shadowland Daredevil and Kingpin, Criminal Syndicate.
Yeah.
And with the cuts, you took off Shadowland Daredevil. I mean, Malekith has now made its way into your roster. What kind of went into the decision of taking off Shadowland Daredevil?
I just okay. So I started. So what? I guess I'm gonna bring it back a little bit. Um,
Okay.
I I went 4-2 in season 7, and looking at my tiebreakers, I was the best placed. I was the highest placed player to not make top cut,
Oh,
that was unfortunate. Your next opponent is like the player who eliminated me from making top cut by beating me in the 6th round. So
uh, I'll do
hopefully,
it for you. I'll do
yes,
it for
right,
you.
that's right. And right after that, right when Top Cut was going on, is when Shadowlands Daredevil came out, and I was like, all right, well, I've been playing Avengers for 4 months now. I'm gonna try something new, and it turned out. So this was before anyone knew how good of a leadership he was, and how good of a teams he could create. And so I just jumped on there, and I started doing really well with them. And I liked the playstyle a little differently than Avengers, and so that's what I decided to bring into the cut. I knew Kingpin. I had some friends who were like, "Well, how do you beat Kingpin on Scoundrels?" And their thinking was, "Well, you just bring Kingpin." And so I listened to them, and I brought Kingpin as well. And and then so I was able to go 2-1 in my first 3 games. And then Malekith came out, and everyone was super hyped on him. I had Baron Zemo was like a staple in my Shadowlands. What I bring with Shadowlands, because I loved that double reroll. One of them is skull, and then you pay for the full reroll, so you can unlock the skull. And if when you reroll that skull and it unlocks into a blank or a shield, you get to add it to your full reroll, and it just meant like when I'm rolling dice with Zemo, I'm like expecting 5 out of 5 successes, and he's just hitting pretty hard for a 3 threat. And so I was like, all right, I have him. I have Bullseye, who is Cabal criminal, and so Malekith, um, bringing Malekith in was easy to do. And so I just had to figure out how to swap that in. And I don't remember actually now thinking about it. I think I kept Shadowlands, and I left Kingpin out to do that. And I don't remember exactly if that's correct. That's what I think happened. And then I ended up running 18 threat on those last 3 games, and I just brought the same 4 squad, which was Malekith, Angela, Baron Zemo, Mystique, and they were scary enough that on the mid board turn 1 that my opponents were hesitant to grab the hammers, and it just let me pick up the hammers and either maintain the point leads or just keep the game at parity until I was able to just beat them, like take the parity away from them and win out the game. So yeah, that's Malekith was just it's just too strong of a character, more than 7 threat, and so I was going with Malekith, and then yeah, so that's how I got there.
Yeah, and I know that Ben, you played against Lucas's roster, and it was like you switched your roster from Brotherhood to Wakanda, and of course you run into the one thing you can't reroll
Yeah,
against.
no, I was really happy. I was m- moving away from that, which was my normal of Brotherhood, and it was like, yeah, like, oh, there's just some like goofy stuff I could do with Wakanda. I was practicing a lot of games. I was like, oh, that's great. Uh, Malekith was not out on the TTS while I was doing my practice games, and there was like some weird timing of like when we finalized our rosters and like when Malekith was out and my own schedule. So I was like, he can't be that bad, right? Like he can't just, he can't be that bad. Even looking at his card, I'm like, that's fine. And I see Lucas, sees he's got the Malekith. I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't have a lot of games with him. He probably doesn't even bring them, right? That's fine. And then we get matched up, and it's Malekith against Jug or against Hulk, and in Wakanda, I'm like, oh, this is great. Like I got all these re-rolls. Man, he can't survive all these rolls. Like, oh, I fail basic reading 101, and can't re-roll into Malekith. You're like, well, this is real bad.
And it's funny
And
because I mean, you played that Wakanda roster against me, and it's
mhm,
kind of a shame that it basically like because that was your second loss, so
yeah,
you were out and then you stopped playing it, so it was kind of just like there and gone. But
yeah,
that roster was you were killing me with that roster in practice games. It was very scary.
I love
But
that roster.
a,
Yeah,
a Malekith killer apparently it is not, and it was terrible matchup for you. But Lucas, you ran that list, that Angela, Mystique, Zemo, Malekith list. You said all 3 games after the the week 3 swap.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so can you talk to us like before we get into the cut stuff? Like what was your what obviously 3 long movers in Malekith, but what else about that did you really just like jive with? I guess.
I just I think it was, well, I mean, the 18 threat just came up each time, so
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
easy to just be like, all right, well, this worked the first time, and so I'll just do the same thing again. And actually, it was um it was pretty cool going into my 4th game, or it's my 4th game, so against you, right, Matt? And I had only played 1 or 2 games with Mal, or one against, so it was still new with him. But I played a game the night before on Infinity Hammers, and we played at 18. Or yeah, I think because we played Madman Hammers or something like that. No,
I think it was Infinity.
we played Infinity. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
played Madman Hammers on the exact same map that we played on, and I was in the exact same deployment line. So I could not believe it when we ended up in the situation we were in, where I was like, "Holy crap! I literally just played this game yesterday. So just do this exact same thing again." And so yeah, it just the team itself is, like you said, like 3 fast movers. My slowest character is Malekith, um, and so it was they all can I can grab a hammer, I can scare the one side with Angela enough where I can just do a long move, hit, and then throw a size 4 terrain or something. So I wanted to put Angela on the side that had like a big terrain to throw. And then are scared enough to not pick up that hammer right away, or if I had priority, I could just scoop it up with Angela and retreat back. And then on my other side, I have the Mystique Malekith like threat, so that I can just, so they're terrified of grabbing that hammer too. And And then I have Baron. Malekith. I mean, if things don't work out, Malekith grabs a backhammer and moves the back point, and we just wait till turn 2. And if he does get if we do get the deception off, then we send Baron Zemo to grab the backhammer, and just with Baron Zemo with a full reroll on 6 dice is even better than Baron Zemo with 5 dice. So it's I'm okay with Baron Zemo wasting the power turn 1 to get the hammer, because I know that I'm probably going to get a daze, in which case Baron Zemo will get that power refunded. So on turn 2, he's got his charge back online. And that's the general idea on what that turn 1's kind of setup looked like. And it obviously worked.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty nasty list. I actually don't know. Do you still have Angela in the roster?
No, I got rid of her. I think that overall she is a little too flimsy for the amount of threat. Like, only has 13 health for a 5 threat, and it's just not enough health per threat when to she can just die really quickly, and she almost did a couple times that last game to get me into top cut. Angela just like pulled a miracle off, lived on 1, and like almost or basically one shot X-23 or something like that. And that the only reason I won was because she did both those things. So it was a little too close of a call, and that's so she doesn't fit with my new overall game plan, and so that's why she's gone.
Okay. So talk to us about the new game plan then. I mean, what else is different, and like what's the new approach?
Well,
Without,
okay,
without
so
sharing all your secrets, of course.
no, I'll
How do we beat you? How do we beat you?
all right. Well, let's see. So I made it top cut, which was the goal. When I started this grind back after the last season ended, I put in so many games. I was probably playing 5 games a week or so in the off season. In like with the goal to do this, to make top cut. So to make top cut, I was extremely happy with my performance this season so far, and so I had to make a new roster. I wanted to change things up. I wanted to try to like be able to answer all the questions that could get thrown at me going into from all the different lists. And I was going with Shadowlands Daredevil Malekith again, because I had a lot of familiarity with Shadowlands, and Malekith is just a strong piece. So but then I got to talking with a few other players in my local meta, and one of them basically just said, "Okay, that's great. The list is good, but how do you beat Pat Dunford?" And I was like, that's a good question. I have no idea how I would beat Pat with this list. I don't know if I could." And I then did a lot more thinking, and then I changed it up to what I have now, which is a Kingpin Malekith list that also splashes Juggernaut and Hulk, and as like more big guys. And I was at the end. I mean, I was like, all right, I think I have the tools to beat like that terrifying Guardians Thanos list. So going into Top Cut, I was like thinking, how do I beat Pat? And so yeah, and so then I felt like my list had a bunch of different scenario plays, and it had a bunch of different attrition plays, and I'm just happy with all the different questions that it presents before the characters hit the table.
You know, when I was making my roster for cut, after I make cut, nobody asked me that question. And you know, I don't think I would have had an answer for it. So like you did, who did you play in the top 32? I'm totally forgetting.
All right. Well, I remember I played an X-Men player. I'm not remembering their name. Red Cathal.
Okay.
I believe he is from the UK. I think he went 5-1, just like I did. And yeah, so he was running X-Men with Malekith. And so we drew up. I won priority. I chose my secures. We got scoundrels, and we got scoundrels and spiders. Yeah, that's what we got. And so with 10 points on the board, I knew I was probably going to run Kingpin, just Kingpin criminals, and just try to score out as quickly as possible. And the question really was like, do I also bring Malekith? Like, do I take out Jugs and Bullseye or something, some sort of combo like that, and do I run Malekith instead? And I and I decided not to. and I thought that if he did bring Malekith, because he had Malekith in his list, that I would just continue the game plan, score it as quickly as possible. Malekith can't be everywhere at once. But ultimately, he didn't bring Malekith, and when our models hit the board or when we revealed our lists, I think I basically won the game at that point. As long as I didn't make any massive blunders, I was going to go up on points on turn one, and and most assuredly, I would have just maintained parity from the rest of the game or close to it enough for me to just win before he can catch up. And I don't know. I mean, the game kind of went exactly like that. I just protected my pieces, and I think I only dazed Domino in the entire game because she just needed to go down because she was a high damage person, a high damage character, and she could do nasty things to my character, so I didn't want to let that happen. But I mean, other than that, I was just like, how do I maintain the points I'm at and protect my pieces? And so the game was pretty. It was over pretty quickly.
I didn't get to catch much of that game. I only got a little bit of it, I think. I don't know if I got streamed. Did it get streamed anywhere? Do you know?
Yeah, the Danger Room. The Danger Room hosted it.
Okay, so it's probably up on their YouTube. So if you guys want to watch his game against X-Men in the round of 32, you can go check that out on the Danger Room channel. Either Danger Room or Chewy, I would assume one of those two channels, probably.
I think Chewy streamed it on his, so I think it's on his channel.
Okay. And I think Chewy's streaming my next game too, so all the more reason.
Lucas, I have a question for you. One of the things that we saw at NashCon as kind of an anti-tech to the Cabal Malekith, or really that leaning heavy into the Malekith, is something that Morgan Reed has brought, and he's been talking a whole bunch at the Strike Better podcast, which is Sam Avengers with emphasis on Hulk and recalibration matrix. How do you plan for that matchup?
Okay, well, I have been taking this one game at a time this whole season. My general process going into each week is I just build a spreadsheet of all the I'm like an Excel like kind of nerd about this, but like I build like a spreadsheet of all the different threats and scenarios that will come up, and if I have priority, if I don't, and what that looks like, and what I think they'll bring, what I think I should bring, and things like that. And so I just take it week by week, and so I haven't invested too much time into thinking about that matchup, especially because our lists are locked. I can't like change anything in preparation for that. I just have to use the pieces I chose, and so I haven't spent too much time about that. I am worried about that matchup. Um, I think that I have to make a incredibly smart uh, decisions right away with just building the roster and make sure I think like I need to have an amazing turn one. Um, and I have to just watch out for the gameplay errors. I think the list is incredibly strong, and I think I just have to make sure I capitalize on any misplays that come up. And it's just a tough list to play against. So we'll see if I meet him in the finals. I mean, that's just it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tough list. Not even not just piloted by a great player in Morgan Reed, but I think the list itself that we're seeing kind of more of a resurgence of Sam. Not doing the Sam spam, but kind of leading more of a expectation going to run into Malekith a whole bunch more, and those single extracts that Sam led teams can really take advantage of. And so I'm sure you'll do great. You got to apply for it. I might just hire you for some of those Excel sheets for some of my games next season. If you're on retainer, we might be able to see if we could do something about that, because that sounds awesome. That type of prep work. I know I don't do it, and
I think that's a pretty unique thing to you, Lucas. I don't know anybody that
yeah,
does that.
and that's awesome.
You've shown me your spreadsheet too, and it is. Let me tell you guys, it's thorough.
I enjoy doing it. So I mean, if people are asking for matchup advice, always willing to like say what I think. But the one thing that I would caution anyone about when they're asking me for advice is that I like have deep dived on like two rosters, and so I really don't have the game experience in more than outside of the Steve Avengers and the Criminal Syndicate, and now just getting into Malekith. So it's yeah, but it's I enjoy doing the spreadsheet stuff. It's ritual now. It's becoming like a ritual before each game.
It's awesome. It's and it's obviously showing its merit. So congratulations again, man.
I guess now would be the time to ask you about the flying kitty in the room. Do you think that Malekith is overpowered or problematic in any sort of way in the current like game state, or what's your opinion of this crazy cat that's flying around here?
I think that he is a very strong piece, and he is incredibly hard to deal with if you don't have much experience into him. I think that before there was a recent change this week where if you modify the skulls in his role that you've paid for, they it doesn't check to see if they're crits again for the rest of the attack sequence. So you can re-roll the skulls, the now crits, and they are if they hit skulls, they are failures and they're not criticals anymore. So I think that dials him back quite a bit. Or it gets him closer to the seventh threat you pay to bring him on the table. I think before then he's almost an eighth threat for the seventh threat cost. So he's a very strong piece, and I actually am not a big fan at all of this of the narrow meta that I feel like we're in, or like the you bring two small guys and you bring two big guys kind of
Yeah.
situation we finding in.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of this, but like I brought that's the list I brought. So I'm just dealing with the reality of the situation. I
Hmm.
think that Malekith is a strong piece, and I brought characters that support and help him out. So yeah, I think he's really strong.
Well, here's the most important thing, Lucas. Do you have fun playing Malekith? Is he fun?
Well, I I enjoy playing Malekith. I like piloting Malekith.
Mhm.
The roll, I mean, rolling dice is just a lot of fun in general, and
Yes.
he rolls a lot of dice. I Um, I know that the players that I'm competing against, especially in this like competitive in the TTS league, like they signed up for competitive matches, or
Yep,
at least when they're in Top Cut, like they know they're going to get competitive matches, and they know they're
absolutely.
going to face the best pieces, and they know and they have the option to bring the best pieces, and so I really it's hard for me to feel bad if they get run
Oh,
over
for
by
sure.
Malekith because just uh I get like I don't know I got lucky or I get the right meta pick in my list with combination things, but that's just how it is, and I could easily be on the other end of it, and there'd be no complaints. So yeah, I think I enjoy playing the game with Malekith, but I can see why other people wouldn't, especially when it's a not you're not playing a competitive event.
Mhm. For sure. Um, I wanted to ask you a little bit. You have, and I think pretty much anybody that's taking Malekith at this stage is probably running Follow Me. There's been a lot of chatter about Follow Me lately. Do you like? What's your take on the card? I know you didn't take it in your game against Pat, and I'd like to hear like your thoughts about that and kind of your general thoughts about Follow Me because a lot of people think it should be either restricted or banned. I wouldn't be surprised to see it restricted or banned, like either one, like in a future change. But especially in the big boy meta, follow me is really powerful. So I kind of want to get your take on that.
Yeah, I think that follow me it like I feel like it breaks like a core part of like this game and maybe other skirmish games where it's like you go I go, and I don't like that. I think I agree. I don't think the card I don't think the card should like exist anymore. So get rid of it. And if it
Okay.
did exist, I think that someone suggested having a combined threat level of the two characters that are
Mm.
interacting with the card, and I think that something like like six threat or like that would be a good number to modify the card to be at. But I don't know if AMG will do that. It seems like they just like ban or restrict the cards. So I would then, knowing that, I would then say the card should be removed from the game. But I mean, I'm playing it because it's the best it's the best unaffiliated card in the game. So
Mhm. And with the change you were talking about, with the Cloak of Shadows change, and I mean Domino's crying in the corner as we speak. But I think that also really buffs the recalibration matrix answer to Malekith a little bit more, because it's another way for him to not be able to get those additional crits. So pretty interesting. And I know there was also somebody talking about I don't know what the ruling is on this yet, but like if you're attacking Malekith and you get a really good attack roll and he gets a really good defense roll and he spikes on defense, if you recalibration matrix, it's I believe you might not be able to roll your dice because you can't modify against him. So you could hypothetically keep your really good attack roll while forcing him to reroll all of his successes if he spikes on defense.
yeah,
Um,
that's my understanding of the rule too. The how it works as well, and that's an interesting way to play the card. I am glad I played my game with Pat on Sunday, and not I didn't wait until today to play it because it might not have. I mean, obviously, I'm saying that like because of how my dice went, but like, and I would have of course played a little differently if the card with the new ruling, but
mhm.
that's just yeah. So it's yeah. I'm glad I played my game on Sunday.
Of course, I know, I don't blame you. So I mean, we've kind of covered a lot of like the basic questions. I mean, I don't want to make you go through like a deep dive of every game that you've played so far. I do want to look ahead a little bit. Obviously, we have no idea. I'm sure you're just like tuned in, like thinking about this season. I can relate. I am doing the same thing while I'm still alive. And I did want to ask you though, just in the off chance that you've thought about it at all. Um, After this season, do you think you're going to be sticking with like the Cabal Syndicate type of thing? Is there anything else that seems interesting to you that once you're finished grinding this season, you might want to look into kind of deep diving into that next, because you were with Avengers before and now you're with the Syndicate and Cabal. So is there anything else that's kind of piqued your interest that you want to look into?
There's nothing really that's like that's grabbed me. I don't know. I'm probably gonna be taking a break for a little bit. I might not grind as much in the off season, and I'm this season is like what a crazy ride. I think I'm just gonna take a break and play casual characters that I don't play a lot of, that I've
Mhm.
painted up, and just do some fun things with the game. Competitive games and casual games are fun for completely different reasons, and I've only been in the competitive mindset for so long at this point that that I need some sort of like refresh. And so I'm really not sure. I'm gonna just try a bunch of different things. But you had your question previously about the follow me and why I didn't bring it in Pat's game,
Oh, great.
and I
Yeah.
had I did have like a reasoning behind it, and I don't know if it's good reasoning, but it's the reasoning I had, and it was that I knew that his 15th threat was likely going to be Thanos, Gamora, Star Lord, which is what he ended up bringing. And I knew that my 15th threat was I had the options of going like Malekith, Hulk, Bullseye, but I didn't want to do that because Thanos would only have to manipulate three of my characters, and I would have zero characters on points. And so I felt like I wanted to have a fourth character to kind of like to prevent me from not getting a single point in a round or things like that. And so which meant that I knew that I would be going last. I would probably be going last with one of my characters, and I wouldn't have priority, like unless my character I got wiped by Thanos and his crew. and so that's why I didn't bring follow me, because I didn't want to take priority. I wanted to go last with one of my characters to make sure I was getting a character back on the point. And typically, or like my theory was that it would be Malekith would be the one ideally going last each round. And um and so yeah, I didn't think the card fit the overall strategy I was going for um in the game. So I didn't end up not bringing follow me.
Nice. Okay, super interesting. I was curious about that. When I saw it, it was like, whoa, because at the time everybody was like that whole weekend, people were. I was seeing so many conversations about Follow Me and Malekith, and then there you are not running it. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of wraps up like most of the questions that we had. Again, win or lose from here on out, you've had an incredible run. You've definitely you've gotten to where you wanted to go, and you made it past there even. So congrats, Lucas. It's been a lot of fun playing with you this season. And if you go on and win, I call dibs for Crisis Point to talk to you first. And yeah, I mean, is before we wrap up the episode and the interview, do you have any plugs, like anything you want to shout out, or like a game store, or like a group or anything?
Yeah, well, let me just say a couple of things about the pat matchup. Nothing in like really specific. I mean,
Sure.
I guess I could say a couple of things that I big misplay early on by sending Baron Zemo up to die. I
Mm.
didn't think he would die that quickly, but I think that ultimately it helped me out in the game, because I he wasted two of Thanos's turns, or he wasted significant portions of Thanos's turns in the first two rounds of the game. And so an 8 threat having to spend those actions dealing with 3 threat ended up not being the end of the world, and I guess it's okay. But it was I think I would have done even better if he didn't die, or if I didn't send him out to his death. Um, so just like what I guess what I'm saying is that, like, even when you win and have like one of the best beat a such a great player in Pat, like there's always lessons to be learned in the games. And when I talked to my mother about the situation I'm in with this game and all that. She doesn't understand she doesn't understand like any of the rules or anything like that. But I'm just like, she can like empathize with like my mental state going into each match and all that. And she is a big fan of like visualization. So the entire week I was basically thinking about what I would say to the commentary crew when they came into the game after I won my match. And I kept visualizing the things I would say, and I just kept it in my mind that like I kept running it over and over again. I would be like, "Oh, I shouldn't say that. That'd be kind of like mean or something like that," or like, "Or I don't want to say that. That's kind of corny," and blah blah blah. And I would just like think about these dumb things, and I was like, and I did shout out my crew in that video, and after the match, because I thought about it, and that's what I wanted to do when it was over. And so I think that's just something to do. I think that's a great thing to do, especially in games like this, is help me keep calm, even though when I had a bad board state or when I had a good board state, just helped keep mental clarity on the match and kept me focused. So I think that's good advice for anyone who's playing. Another thing too is reading your opponent's cards before the match.
Mm.
That is like, even though you think you know their cards, I think that like, and I've of course I know Pat's cards, or I think I know Pat's cards, but reading each of them out loud to myself before the match helped make sure that I was basically, I was able to judge the match on my own. And there was a situation that came up where uh, he he thought he could plucky with Star Lord on a dodge roll, and because I just read that card like a few hours earlier, I was immediately able to recognize that that wasn't the case. And another situation came up where he wanted to play fallback after Malekith was initiating the throw from the damage on his ferocity attack, and that was a situation where I was able to remember the rules on fallback, and make sure that things were not played incorrectly. And so that's just another thing that I think any player could do, is just read all the cards that could be involved in the game, and just make sure you're ready for it. And so I did all those things. I also I'm getting like I'm going like off on a tangent here, but
No, it's
but
fine. It's fine.
like I used to watch competitive chess pretty regularly, and one big thing that they had is they would measure the air and temperature of the rooms that the players were playing in. And so um I would, so knowing that I don't have like any sort of device that captures that, but just making sure that I'm comfortable in the clothing I'm in. I've got a water beside me, and I'm just as comfortable as possible when I'm playing the match. My desk is completely cleared of all my paints and all my half painted models, and so I just make sure I do all those things before the match too. So I think like um I try to give myself as much of an edge as I possibly can going into each match, and so I do all these little things to help me get there.
It's funny you say that because I feel like when I'm at like a real tournament, like a IRL, like physical, like actual tournament where you're really there, I almost have like the opposite thing where it's like everybody is uncomfortable the whole
Yes.
day. Everybody is like sore and tired, and like you're after like 2 rounds. And I actually feel like I really thrive off of that that discomfort. Like I know my opponent's tired, and I don't know, for some reason I always do better at a tournament the longer, like the later in the day it is. And this is like Ryan, you know this, like from my kill team experiences, I am known to lose my first game and then to like win out the rest of the day.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It happens every tournament I go to. I always, I swear I'm not submarining. It happens.
Yeah, no.
And most of the time, not at every tournament I've been to, but no, I think that's really good advice. Like, especially like for the TTS world that we're playing in for season 8. Be comfortable. I mean, it's probably not something that I that I consider enough. But yeah. So, was there anything else that you wanted to hit on before we close out here?
I think I don't know. I'm just gonna give a shout out to the same crew I did on my last match. So I got my friends that I play with usually every Friday. I got Tim, DJ, and Bob, and Mike, and then we have our I've got a Southern Ontario Discord group that kind of is like cheering me on, and so all those guys, the lovable misfits group, and just the players that are helping me workshop each match. It's just like it's really cool to have like people willing to help me out and give me some great advice. And then also you, Shane, the we're kind of like we've been kind of like cheerleading each other and like doing a little bit of like I don't know, mental prep before each match. And
Yep.
so shout out to you for like it's great. It's really cool how we we played each other a few times before the season began, and then we won all of them in the regular season. We won all our matches at the same time, and we lost
Yep.
our one match at the same time.
Yeah, you're
It's
right.
a
Yeah.
really cool ride. So I'm really hoping you get the W. And you know what? I think you will, because after I played Right Mad, you know, he said to me, I still remember this. He said, "Oh, you got to play my boy Shane next. You got to play my boy Shane." And it's like, here we go. If you get the dub here, Right Mad, the prophet.
Look, I can live the dream. I can live the dream.
That would be something, honestly. And I mean, I've even said I'm playing against Matt Alex this week, who we gassed up last week over how awesome of a player he is and how great his NashCon roster is. It would be very cool for me to lose to him just alone based on the fact that I'm playing Spider Foes and he is playing Web Warriors. I mean, is there a better way to, like, come on? Like, I don't know. But I would love to win this week and get that game against you, Lucas. That'd be tremendous.
It would be great. One of us making it to semifinals. Wow, that would be so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ryan, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can close us out.
So, Lucas, once again, thanks for joining us on the Crisis Point podcast. It was awesome having you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on YouTube or whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. Make sure to like, comment, follow, leave a rating, all that good stuff to help kind of, grow the podcast. And, we definitely want to hear what you guys think of the stuff that we're talking about here. So make sure to leave that in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube or whatever. If you want to support us any further outside of that, you can check out our Patreon. Sometimes we have some special stuff on there for our patrons. Outside of that, thank you all for tuning into the Crisis Point podcast, and we hope to see you all again in the next one.